Welcome to Larry the Alchemist, and welcome to another edition of Dudes Talking Metal. This is where we get some dudes together to hang out the lair and discuss metal and hard rock related topics with you. So we've got the regular dudes in the house with us here, Tony and Butch, and we are going to be sharing. Each of us has picked two bands who we feel are carrying the torch for hard rock and heavy metal. New bands that are keeping the spirit of hard rock and heavy metal alive. We have another special thing here for you. We are going to be starting a Dudes Talking Metal Spotify playlist. So as we go through our episodes like today's episode, you can go to the Dudes Talking Metal Spotify playlist and you will hear selections from the bands that we have selected for the show here. And as the show goes on and we talk about various topics, we'll keep adding on to that playlist. So make sure you go over to Spotify. Make sure you follow along the Dudes Talking Metal playlist. I'll also leave links below in the description where you can get more information on these bands. Okay, so guys, Tony, you want to kick us off with your first pick?
Sure thing. The first band that I'm going to talk about, they're from Sweden and they're called Ambush. And they formed in 2013. And they've had a few lineup changes, but it seems like the guitar player Olaf, the drummer Linus, and the lead singer, vocalist Oscar Jacobson have remained the same. They've had a couple of different guitar changes over the years, and they've released a few albums. Firestorm in 2014. Here's that one. We've got Desecrator, came out in 2015. They released a single for the song Hellbiter, and this one came out in 2019. That was a 7-inch single that they did. And in 2020, they released Infidel. They've also released a single for Barabbas, and they've done a split with the band Stallion called the Heavy Metal Sessions. So this band, they definitely they're power metal. I mean, it's got that Swedish power metal influence, of course, but there's little elements of glam and 80s style rock mixed in. Um, the singer, the vocalist Oscar, he sounds a lot like CJ Snare, the late CJ Snare, who just passed away from the band Firehouse. He sounds a lot like CJ to the
Wow.
point where before, if you know any like some obscure metal underground bands, before the guys in Firehouse ever formed the band, they had a band called Max Warrior that released an album in 1985, an EP. The first time I heard Ambush, I thought I was hearing a lost Max Warrior song because that's what it sounded like. I was like,
Mm.
wow, to the point where I even sent the song that actually was the first song on the Firestorm album, the title track. I sent a YouTube link to Al, the guitarist of Max Warrior, and also sent it to CJ for the singer and the guy from Firehouse. They were both like, "Wow!" I was like, "This sounds like Max Warrior 2.0. This is amazing." It's like if you guys went in the studio and did a new album, you know. And it's just good driving heavy metal. Like I said, a lot of elements of power metal, but then it's got that 80s, straightforward, not really glam, but you had bands like Talkin and stuff like that was coming out. To the point too is the song Hellbiter. The riff on this is almost copped from Looks That Kill by Motley Crue. If you go and listen to these, maybe we'll put that in the Spotify playlist, because when you hear it come on, you're like, are they doing Looks That Kill? And then he comes in with some different lyrics. But really, really cool band. I've really enjoyed them. I've enjoyed every record they put out so far. Looking forward to seeing what else they're going to put out in the coming years. So yeah, check them out for sure. Ambush from
Nice.
Sweden.
Sweden seems to
Cool
have a
band.
real thing for like glam. Sweden and Finland, they have this affinity for glam and this sort of retro hair type stuff. So that sounds like a real interesting kind of
Yeah,
combination.
and they blend it so well. Like I said, it seems like I mean, back in the day, I mean, even 25 years ago, you wouldn't really mix the glam sound and the power metal sound very much. But these some of these bands are coming out and they're doing a really good job
Mhm.
of meshing the two together.
Nice.
Really good.
All right, Butch, what do you got for your first pick?
All right, I actually I had a hard time nailing it down to just two. There were so many I wanted to talk about, but these are the bands I'm going with right now are two that are like currently and have been for a while. Two of my favorite current bands that I definitely think more people should know about. One of them is their name is getting a little bit bigger. The other one is getting there, but I don't think quite they haven't come over to the US yet. And but so anyway, let's start with this. The first band I have is a band called Seven Sisters. This is a band formed in London 2013. Current lineup is Kyle McNeil, who's the leader of the band, guitar, vocals, writes a lot of the stuff. Graham Farmer on guitar, Gareth Martin on bass, and Sammy Christow on drums. They have three full lengths out now. They started they released a demo called The Warden in 2014. They had a single in 2015 called Lost in Time, and then this album came out, just called Seven Sisters. This is on High Roller. This came out in 2016. They followed it up. They followed it up in 2018. This is actually their first concept record. This is called. Let's get out of there. This is called The Cauldron of the Cross. This is the lyrics on this album. It's based on Arthurian legend, so King Arthur kind of stuff. Really, really cool lyrically. It's really cool that they're doing something kind of like. I like that they're doing something literary like that. It's really neat. They had a couple other singles. They had a single called The Crystal Temple. It was a split. They put out an EP called the Campfire Tales EP. And then their most recent one is this is an album called Shadows of a Fallen Star. This is part one, and they're working on part two. I'm assuming I think they're in the studio, and I'm assuming we'll get part two, and hopefully in 2025. But I mean, these guys are great. I guess the best way to describe them, I mean, they belong to this whole kind of new wave of traditional heavy metal movement. At the same time, they're like, they kind of like started as like a straight up kind of like fit in with that whole thing. Like a lot of Maiden influences. You could hear a little bit of some power metal in there. Like I think on this first album, a little bit of Halloween, maybe a little bit of Blind Guardian, Priest. There's Thin Lizzy in the they got a lot of double guitar work. I hear a little bit of Slow Fig too on the first couple records. So as they've gone on, they've stayed true to their metal roots, but they've got a little bit more. They've added more elements with each record. The production's a little cleaner. They're they think they're adding a little bit some more progressive type of elements, like some time changes and things that are different from what they're kind of like. Although they fit in with this group, they're kind of not content to just put out a record that sounds like Killers or Satan's Court in the Act or whatever record you want to pick from the 80s, Warlord, or they're doing their thing. Like they're growing a lot as a band and as musicians and as writers. Kyle's voice, I think he is a very clean but powerful voice. He's super expressive. He has great range, but he doesn't go off into histrionics. Like you're not going to find like him trying to like a pop like Halford type of notes or go off like into the stratosphere like Dickinson or those kind of singers. But his voice is really good. I mean, a really solid singer, great songwriter. The vocal melodies are tremendous. I mean, they really bring the songs together. The songs are great to begin with. And it just ties it all together with the way that he sings. So I guess like if you like stuff like Thin Lizzy, if you like Maiden, if you like Priest, if you like Queensryche, there's the further they've gone along, the more kind of some of this progressive stuff has come in. So like there's kind of like a Queensryche vibe, kind of coming into the music. The last time I was over in Europe in 2020, Kyle was on the road with I think he was on the road with the Gates of Slumber at the time, and I was talking to him backstage at Hell Over Hammerberg, and he had said at the time that his goal for Seven Sisters was actually to get them to move them like progressively from metal to be like more of a straight like progressive rock band. But since then, he's actually has like a progressive project now called Phantom Spell. That's awesome. That I think is you know, so I think like Seven Sisters is the metal side of things, and then he has this progressive thing on the side. But I mean, these guys are killer. People, I remember people raving about the demo, and they had a different singer on the Warden demo at the time. Like Kyle, I think since he's been the singer. The first thing I heard the Warden demo, but the first thing I bought by them was that self-titled, and like I love his voice. I love everything about this band. The guys can play, they can write. You could see the progression, and they care about the way the record sounds. There's cool concepts going on here. So yeah, so Seven Sisters. That's the latest. Like definitely check these out. I really think people would like these guys a lot.
They
Nice.
toured over here last year with was it with Haunt? Because they played a show in Richmond, and I found out about it the day after.
You know what? Now that you say that, I think you're right that they did come over here, which
I think
makes
it
me
was with
crazy that I
Haunt.
didn't get to see them.
Yeah, I remembered someone that I know shared the event, or they had went to the show, and then I was like, I saw the event that they were. I was like, wow, I would have gone to that, because
Don't you hate when
Closest
that
I've got,
happens? Yeah.
yeah, Richmond's like a 2 hour drive for me. It's not bad at all, really.
yeah, the
Yeah.
closest I've gotten to seeing them live was, just seeing video from like Keep It True and the festivals that they've played. They seem like a good live band too, and they have like I have to bring it up. They used to make posts about this all the time, but they have like the funniest. They would buy like the ugliest button down shirts that they could find, and that's what they wore on stage. Which is I used to, the post used to make me howl when they post these ugly shirts that Kyle and Graham would find. It was awesome. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm glad that you guys suggested this topic because honestly, this is kind of a weak blind spot for me. Call me a grumpy old man. I need to kind of be hit upside the head, yeah, to pay attention to the newer stuff. And it really isn't, I'm not one of these people who it's not that I'm not interested in it. It's just that there's only so much time in the day. And when I tend to go hunting for metal that I haven't heard before, I kind of get off more on finding some obscure 80s band that I've never heard or some 70s, heavy 70s band or something like that. So a lot of my energy goes there. So I'm glad that you guys did this. And an example suggested this. And an example of me getting hit upside the head was so there's a venue here in Tampa. It's called New World Brewery, and they have a small little concert hall. And outside the concert hall, they have a beer garden where they serve like a small menu. And I was there to see Savage Master. They were the headline band. And my
Another
wife and I
another
got there and
newer
we were
band.
like, okay, they're not going on for a little bit. We heard the one band, and I don't even remember who they were. We were just kind of like, you know what, let's just get something to eat and then we'll come back for Savage Master. So as I was sitting there, like the Caesar salad landed in front of me or something. And all of a sudden, I just hear these crushing doom metal riffs like coming from the concert hall, right next to where we are. And I'm just like, what in the world is that? And here it was this band called Early Moods. And I believe this was the first time that they were out on the road. And I have their CD. I bought their CD that night. I just couldn't find it. I have a feeling it's maybe under the seat of my car or something like that because it was in my car stereo for a long time. But I was just told my wife, I was like, keep an eye on my Caesar salad. I'll be right back. I have to check this out. And I mean, I walked in and I was just absolutely floored. These young kids, I don't know how old they are. They can't be much older than like early 20s, maybe even late teens. they've got the sound down, they've got the look down, and it's old school style doom, a la Saint Vitus, a la Pentagram, a la Candlemass. And I had to interview these guys for my channel. I was there to interview Savage Master, but I was like, I got to interview these guys, and I'm gonna link that interview in the description down below, where I also have some clips of them playing live. Unfortunately, it was the first time I ever did that, and the microphone is like all distorted and stuff. But anyways, as soon as I started talking to these gentlemen, these young gentlemen, right away I was just floored. They're name dropping. I'm asking these guys, what do you, because I'm just like, how? how how are you guys playing this? And they start telling me that their dads, they were going through their dad's record collections and CD collections, and they start name dropping things like Budgie, Sir Lord Baltimore, Captain Beyond. I mean, I was just like, I can't believe that you guys are hip to all this stuff, that you know. And not only do you know it, this is like what's inspiring your band and everything. So I was just completely floored by them. The singer is great. He's got a classic kind of St. Vitus, Rieger's style voice. The riffs are crushing, and they capture that sort of early '80s, kind of late '70s, early '80s kind of doom vibe. Throw Witchfinder General into
Mm-hmm.
that mix too. So I just absolutely, and it's, to me it was doom. It wasn't stoner. There's that, we could maybe make a video on the difference between doom and stoner. These
Absolutely.
guys kind of sat squarely in that doom space, and I just loved it, and it was really great talking to these guys. I don't want to give myself too much credit for anything. These guys were going to explode on their own, but the video did really well. I remember a lot of people getting really excited about it, like, whoa, these guys sound great. I'm going
Yeah.
to go and check them out and everything. And they've done a lot since then. They've been doing tours. They have three CDs out. I'm gonna put my glasses on here. They have a self-titled, Spellbound, and A Sinner's Past. They're all up on Bandcamp. I know I bought a physical copy of, I believe it was the self-titled, is all they had at that time. But yeah, just great classic doom metal. At the time I was wearing, when I saw them, I was wearing a Nemesis Day of Retribution shirt. Nemesis was the band before Candlemass. And when they saw that, they were like, "Oh man, are you a Candlemass fan?" I'm like, "I'm the biggest Candlemass fan in the world." And I know that they eventually got to open up for Candlemass when Candlemass came over to the West Coast, about a year, 2 years ago or so. So, yeah, just great band. Definitely check them out if you're into heavy '70s, classic late '70s, early '80s doom. Highly, highly recommended.
Yeah, dude. I mean, just to jump on that, there, I saw them out in I liked the record. I had it, and I went out to see them. They played out in Youngstown, and they'd gotten caught. I think they got caught in a snowstorm or something. They were coming in. They just barely made it to the show. They like got to the show, got their stuff set up, like, and got on stage like immediately. When they got there, and that they just have amazing live energy and
Mhm.
charisma with how they like you know just they're just an imposing, like, just energetic live band. Like, just you can feel the energy pouring off the stage from those dudes. Like, they love it, and they just exude it, man. It's freaking awesome to see.
Yeah, well said,
Yeah,
especially
I've got
from
to
young
add.
guys. It's just great.
Yeah, I must add to that. They're amazing. I saw them. I discovered them the same tour that you did, John. I saw them out with Savage Master and didn't know what to expect. And man, I mean, everybody when they kicked into that first song, I mean, people were standing at the bar talking stuff. Everybody's like, "Stop, check this out," and these
Yeah.
guys, I mean, like you said, the singer, he's got a little Scott Riggers, he's, of course, he's got a little Eric Wagner in
Yeah.
that voice, a little Ozzy, of course, and he's got this giant afro, and he's
Yeah.
just up there
Yeah,
headbanging, and they're wearing like '70s style looking clothing, kind of throwback. And so I got talking to them afterwards, and they were just super cool guys. And like you said, they pretty much were telling me, the same thing. They got into their dad's records, and Oscar, the lead guitar player, who he's actually left-handed, looks just like Tony Iommi in the old Beat Club videos. He's got the hair. I mean, looks just
Yeah.
like Tony Iommi, young Tony Iommi, left-handed playing an SG. His father was out with them selling their merch, and that's
Yeah.
Oscar Senior. So I started talking to him, and he's like my age, or maybe a little older, and he's like he used, they're from the Los
LA.
Angeles,
Yeah.
California area, and he used to roadie for like Armored Saint and all these bands and stuff he was telling me about.
Wow.
So they definitely knew we're chip off the old block there.
That's
And
awesome.
but yeah, they were so good, and I look forward to seeing what these guys become, because I think they're going to be a force from the U.S. for young metal for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, what's your second pick, Tony?
So my second pick is a band that's kind of odd. They started in 2010 actually in Sydney, Australia, but they didn't put an album out until 2018, and it's pretty much a one man project. They're called Sabir. This was their album from 2018, called Gates Ajar. And the lead singer, they're kind of like I said, they're kind of a one man band. He's a lead singer, guitar player. His name is Scarlett Montesiers, and he's quite a character. I discovered him first when I started seeing stuff on Instagram about the band, seeing this guy and some of the mysterious photos and stuff he would put out. Kind of reminded me a little bit of like you'd see some of the photo sessions. Kind of reminded me of like Quorthon back in the early Bathory days. But this dude is like Blackie Lawless's kid. I mean, he is like when you hear interviews with him, he sounds like Blackie Lawless talking. It just the way his whole demeanor, he's just kind of like a Blackie Lawless type character from the 80s. Um, they musically, of course, they call themselves acid metal, and they sound a lot like Wasp, but they also sound like Icon. I hear some Warrior, like Fighting for the Earth type Warrior.
Nice.
It's just anthemic heavy metal, just balls out metal, like 80s style metal. And like I said, this is the EP that they did, Gates Ajar. This was 2018. They did that one was actually on No Remorse Records. This one is an EP that they released a couple years ago, 2020, and this is the Mistress EP. And they just released their new album for 2024, and it's on Listenable Records. It's called Yacht, and that's Jatt, and the J has the little accent, above it. So that one, I got the download for it the day it came out. Went to Bandcamp, purchased download. It's actually a double album because it's so long. It has some crazy like soundscapes that it opens with and ends with, and kind of bookends it. But it is quite a long album, and it stays in the same vein as the anthemic heavy metal that they did on the Gates Ajar album. But I've been really impressed with this band. So I actually going to be picking up the vinyl soon. Nobody I know has gotten it yet. None of the distro companies or anything. But I guess you can order it from Listenable Records. But definitely check these guys out. They've got some great songs. I mean, they got a song called just One for the Road, just really cool. And they got a video for a song called Rise to the Top. And that's just, it's got that kind of almost like a Twisted Sister type
Mhm.
anthem in the song. So if you like that 80s, 84 to 86 type bands that were coming out at that period, they had an image to them too. They look total metal with the spikes and the crazy hair and everything, but not really glam, still kind of look tough. Check out these guys. They're called Sabir. A lot of people think it's Saber, but it's actually pronounced Sabir.
Severe. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so check them out.
Very cool. All right, what do you got for your second pick there, Butch?
All right. Moving along. I find myself a lot of like I like a lot of these kind of like new wave of traditional heavy metal bands, but I find myself drawn to like bands that are kind of like um fit in with that group and are associated with it, but are kind of like pushing out and doing something a little bit different than anyone else. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing, straight up 80s type stuff, but I like when bands are bringing in other kind of influences and doing some different things. So there's a band formed in 2011 in Lancaster, England, and that band's called Witch Hazel. Um, Really cool band. They're on Bad Omen Records. Um, the first time I heard about them, when this record had come out, I checked it out. I thought it was pretty good. I like that there's some really good double guitar work on it. The production on here, not particularly great. At the time, I wasn't like totally enamored with the vocals. The vocals are good on it, but it wasn't between it was just like it's their first record kind of thing. Like it's a really solid record. There's a lot of good ideas. Um, but the production like kind of like isn't like where it would be on the records to follow. But I mean, it's a really good, a really good starting spot. The current lineup is Colin Hendra, who's the main guy in the band. He's a guitar player, the vocalist. Um, he's got a very. I'm trying to just. I have a hard time with Kyle from Seven Sisters and Colin with comparing their voice to someone else. He has a very. It's like a. He has a smooth, like it's actually almost soothing at times kind of voice, emotional, melodic, yet it's really powerful. And when he wants to, he can hit these super high screams, like, and he uses them like to good effect. He doesn't overdo it. Like there's a couple songs on the records, like in these key spots, he'll just nail these insanely high notes. It's just like it's super good, super powerful. He uh he just has a really good voice. And the other guys in the band are Alex Haslam. They call him Big Al on guitar. Andrew Shackleton on bass and Aaron Hay um, on drums. Their influences, I would say, Thin Lizzy. I know they're Maiden fans. Wishbone Ash. There's a lot of Wishbone Ash in what's going on here. A lot of times when you hear double guitars going on in today's metal bands, or you get a lot of Maiden, you get a lot of Thin Lizzy, but there's this Wishbone Ash kind of vibe going in that fits with like there's like this kind of pastoral medieval kind of vibe that's going through their music at times too. While it's heavy um and it rocks hard, like there's this kind of other thing going on that's kind of like epic. And also, like I said, that it's kind of like kind of like if there's little bits of Jethro Tull, and like it's kind of like there's some folk kind of, they're like not afraid to, but like during a heavy song they'll have acoustic guitars like layered in the background. um just are really cool stuff. It's classic metal, but it's progressive minded. um I think it's melodic, epic, powerful. One of the things about this band, interestingly, that hasn't been a problem for them to date is that their lyrics are based in Christian themes. They don't consider themselves a Christian band. Colin is a Christian. I know one of the other gentlemen in the band is a Catholic, and then the two other guys are agnostic. So, but the theming of the songs, is based in some Christian themes, and so it's cool. They're doing something a little outside the norm. This isn't like preachy kind of stuff, um, and it fits. When you hear it, it just all works together. It's seamless. It's like like this. So this was the first album, 2016's Prelude, and then they did a record. This is Witch Hazel 2 So Yearn. And this one, like, first of all, not only does I mean, look at the cover. I mean, that screams Wishbone Ash right there.
Totally.
I mean, and you really get like a lot of that on this
Yeah.
record. I mean, it's a really great record. There's a song in here called "The Devil Is Here" is tremendous. There's a really moody song in here called "Wait on the Wind" that I love. Like, they're one of these bands that like I've tried to make a playlist. Like, I must have gone at it about 6 times to try to make just like my 10 favorite. I cannot narrow it down. Like it always ends up being like 4 or 5 songs from every record because they're all like solid. There's no like real dead spots on these records. And then they kicked it up again. The next record that came out is a record called This Is Three Pentecost. This one they had a video for a song called Dry Bones, which is tremendous. This is one of those songs like on the chorus, he hits this amazing high note on it. I mean, it's just a this is a fantastic record. And one of the things I like about them too is like with each record, it's like, oh man, that record's better than the last one. And then I bought this one. I'm like, holy shit, this one's better than the last one. And um, this is really great. And then their most recent record is This Is Four Sacraments. Again, tremendous. Like again, it's just another better than the last one. I mean, they just keep going and they get better at writing. The melodies get better. The playing is better. Some really great songs on here. Angel of Light, Time in Doubt, The Fire's Control. I mean, all just really great songs. And these guys have like their name is really starting to. You can really see it picking up. If you look at what's going on message boards, they were just over here. They came over here. I think it was probably their first time in the U.S. They just played down at Hell's Heroes down in Texas, which I'm still crushed that I missed that show because I really wanted to see these guys. It would have been worth like every dollar if they were the only band on the bill to go. I just couldn't make it happen. But I mean, I'm dying to see these guys live. They have a really like their image is cool too. Like they don't just do like denim and leather and stuff. Like you kind of see it here. Like it's kind of like I don't know, like a medieval, like almost like folky kind of thing, like these
Dressed
tunics
in white.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like it's pretty cool. They get this whole thing going on. And Colin's pretty active online. He interacts with the fans a lot through his page. He's putting up videos of him playing piano, singing, their songs, other people's songs. It's really neat. It's the way they're going about building things. I just think they're just so fantastic. I mean, their records have been in the Sacrament was my favorite record last year. And their record just hit me in like the right spot. I mean, they're just it's so it's just everything I like about music, like the melody, and I love the double guitar. I'm a sucker for the double guitars, but they do it so well, and they just they mix their influences in, but they don't sound like they're really like just aping anyone else. And I'm hoping these guys are around for a long time, and I hope everyone will check them out. There's other two here. Like the cool thing about them is they also put out these little like there's a few singles too. Like here's a split they did with Phantom Spell. You know, I kind of like tie these guys together with Seven Sisters in a lot. I mean, they're like the right hand and the left hand or something, or they kind of like go together for me in my head. Like here's a split they did with another good band called Spell. That's definitely worth checking out too. And then here they did there's a song called King of Israel, and then they did a cover of like Old Lang Syne on the other side. I mean, so pretty prolific band, and I'm hoping for both these bands, I'm hoping bigger things, and hopefully we get to see them over here. If not, just gonna have to go over there because I can't imagine going through life without seeing these dudes live.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. For my second pick, I'm going to go with the local Tampa band that I did a video on these guys maybe like about 6 months ago. They're called Midnight Vice, and they're young guys, 19, 20, 21 years old. And they're doing I would describe them as like a mix, a three-way mix of Skid Row, Slave to the Grind era Skid Row with Savatage, Hall of the Mountain King, and Judas Priest Painkiller era. The
Wow.
guitar player is fantastic. When I've seen them twice now. I saw them at the same place that I saw Early Moods, and I saw them somewhere else. I can't remember where, but uh, They throw some covers into their set. At this point, they only have I think it's a 5 song self-titled EP that they put out that's only available digitally. They did make a video for one of the songs, Baptized in Fire, but they also throw in some covers. And they do, like they did Hall of the Mountain King. They did Swords and Tequila.
Nice.
So the stuff that they're doing is just, and they get a laugh out of it. I mean, Swords and Tequila for me is like one of the ultimate, like hard rock, heavy metal anthems. So every time I've seen them and they play that, I'm like, right up at the front of the stage, like, going crazy. And I always feel bad because man, if these guys were out in 1986, they would just be killing it. And unfortunately, in 2024, it's hard to find an audience for this type of stuff. But the singer sounds like Sebastian Bach. He's got that just nutty, insane range. He can go into that dog whistle like type of range. Uh, he's rail thin. He's got the long blonde hair. They dress the part. They got the leather pants and the boots and all that kind of stuff. And they've just got this really nice mixture of sort of the sort of the 80s LA type sound, but it's with that heavier edge with the Judas Priest and the Sabotage mixed in there. I love the guitar player. He's got tons and tons of chops, but he's super melodic. Uh, he's just not a shredder. He reminds me of Chris Oliva, again, another Sabotage reference. He's got the chops, but he also has the melody. And I know that these guys, when I saw them, did my video on them, I actually interviewed them, but the microphone didn't work. So I landed up just making a video with some music mixed into the background and some pictures. They were sort of relatively new at that point. And I believe they went and played at some festival in Chicago recently. So they're just sort of starting to get out of the area. Yeah, so Midnight Vice, they're a really cool band. I want to shout out another Tampa band. Unfortunately, they don't have anything on streaming. I was talking to somebody in the band literally minutes before we started this episode. I guess there's some sort of issue with, I don't know, there's something that they weren't able to put any of their original stuff uh on streaming, but they're called the Dirty Janes. And this band, I was walking down. There's an area called the Tampa River Walk. That it's a walkway that runs alongside the Tampa Bay. It's 2.5 miles long. The Amalie Arena where the Lightning plays along. There's all this museums and parks and all this other stuff. So as I'm walking along the Tampa Bay, I hear music in the distance, and I'm thinking, wow, man, there must be something going on at one of the parks. I'm like, holy crap, they're like blasting like, what is that? Is that Humble Pie? I'm like, listen, I'm going, this is like 70s hard rock, but I'm like not recognizing it. And as I'm walking along, I'm getting closer and closer to this, and I'm expecting to see a big DJ or something somewhere. And it's a band, and it's these guys, and they're like young guys, like 19, 20 years old. The singer looks like a total rock star. I mean, he's like Robert Plant. He's got that whole like the long curly hair. They've got the bell bottoms, they've got the boots, they've got the curly guitar cables. I mean, they're just totally doing it. And they played some of their own stuff. Uh, and they also did some covers. I can't remember what covers they played when I saw them there, but I remember when it was over, I went up, I saw the bass player, and I was like, whoa, man, I'm just like blown away by you guys. I said, you know what you guys should cover? You should cover, have you ever heard of Humble Pie? I said, you should cover 4-Day Creep, from the Humble Pie live record. And the guy was like, "Oh my God, you got to tell our singer that." And I saw him and I told him, he's like, Humble Pie. I'm like, I worship Humble Pie. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm hearing this I'm like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 19 years old. I'm like, and you worship Humble Pie. I was like, okay, this is good. This is good. So I wanted to shout these guys out. Unfortunately, I'll leave a link to their website. There is a you can listen to their one of their songs on there. I guess there's something they're trying to get the stuff released through a label or something like that. So hopefully their stuff will come out in the future. But I want to give some love to the young guys in Tampa here with Midnight Vice and the Dirty Janes, keeping hard rock and heavy metal alive. So
Nice.
all right,
Maybe the maybe
go
the
ahead.
singer for Midnight Vice needs to send a tape to Skid Row.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah, right.
I hope the band
Hey,
better
I
hope that
wanted to,
Dave and Rachel aren't watching the video.
yeah,
Yeah.
John, I wanted to mention, I mean, we're in a we're in the days where it's so easy to discover stuff now. If you hear word of mouth, you can just go look it up on the internet and listen to it. Um, I hear a lot of stuff. There's a YouTube channel called New Wave of Traditional Heavy
Hmm.
Metal that a guy does, and he has full albums called New Wave of
Hmm.
Traditional Heavy Metal
Yeah.
full albums. And a lot of times in the morning when I'm up, getting ready for work, I'll turn it on and crank it through the stereo speakers, and I've discovered a lot of cool bands that play, traditional heavy metal on that station.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's a
That's on
big
YouTube.
supporter of the music, and there's been that's one of my sources for finding out about bands, and then going and then going, I'll find the band on there, or you know another source, like watching something like this, and then I go to Bandcamp, or online, and try to find the record to
Hmm.
buy it, or ask at my local record store. So I mean, these are some, you don't have to look very far sometimes. You just got to, be willing to look a little bit. There's so much music out there, so many great bands that people would love if they would just like take the time to look into the
Yeah.
resources at hand and find out
Yeah.
about them.
Great suggestion. All right, so there you go. There's our picks for some new bands carrying the torch for hard rock and heavy metal. Let us know if you've heard our picks. Make sure you check out our Dudes Talking Metal Spotify playlist. We're going to have songs from all these bands that we discussed here. I'll throw some links down below for the bands that we talked about also. Yeah, so make sure you check these bands out. I hear people all the time on the channel like complaining about the younger generation and all this stuff. This is your chance to go out, support these bands, support these young guys that are out there keeping it alive for hard rock and heavy classic sounding hard rock and heavy metal. This is the only way that this stuff is going to survive if people spread it around, tell a friend, buy a CD, download it on a Bandcamp or stream it, do whatever, just support these bands anyway. Post a link on your personal Facebook page, support these bands any way you can. All right, everybody. Thanks again, and we'll see you at the next Dudes Talking Metal.